Hello, welcome to the breastfeeding workshop presented by Healthy Mothers, Healthy Babies Coalition of Palm Beach County. Today, what you will learn are some benefits of breastfeeding, how to actually do it, along with some community resources for you. Now let's begin. Our mission at Healthy Mothers, Healthy Babies Coalition of Palm Beach County is to improve birth outcomes and promote healthy families by providing access to care, education, and support to those facing the physical, emotional, economic, and social challenges of pregnancy and infant care. To achieve our mission, we have a variety of programs. Today, we're doing the education portion, but we also have healthcare navigation / access to care, outreach, prenatal screening, referral and linkage to Healthy Beginnings programs, service coordination, teen mom mentoring, and centering pregnancy. All of these programs are available to pregnant women in Palm Beach County. To begin our journey into learning about breastfeeding, it is important to talk about skin to skin. What skin to skin is when your baby is laid on top of you with their skin touching your skin directly after birth. There's some reasons why this is important. For instance, it regulates the baby's temperature, it boosts mom's oxytocin levels, and what oxytocin is a hormone that helps breast milk flow and also can calm the mother. It helps babies to be able to self-attach, increasing their likelihood of breastfeeding later. By self-attach, we mean babies will actually crawl to the breast once they're born, which we can discuss a little bit later. It lowers the risk of postpartum mood disorders. So if you've ever heard of postpartum depression, anxiety, OCD, it has been shown to lower the risk of some of these disorders. And it also reduces crying for the baby because they do receive comfort. They hear mom's heartbeat, which is what they've been hearing in the womb all this time, all of the 9 months. So it is very comforting to them. And what's important to remember and to tell family members that you can never spoil the baby. You cannot spoil the baby. It's better for them to feel held and comforted. It increases your likelihood of bonding, which helps breastfeeding, and it's not going to hurt to love on your child. Benefits for the baby through breast milk include that babies are less sick. What breast milk does is it fights against diseases. And before mom's milk comes in, there's a thick liquid produced called colostrum or liquid gold. It's about the consistency of molasses. And what that has in it is a lot of antibodies that help to build your baby's immune system. And it's also important to note that breast milk changes to meet your baby's needs as they grow. Another point is that it's easier to digest. It has fatty acids that help brain, nervous system, and eye development. It protects against sudden infant death syndrome. And it may help lower the risk for childhood obesity, diabetes, and ear infections. So not only does the baby have benefits right away, but they do have long-term benefits that will serve them later in life. So this next slide is actually a guide to see how large your baby's stomach is on the days after birth. On day 1, your baby's stomach is about the size of a marble, so it's very small. So that thick colostrum that we discussed on the previous slide is able to coat and fill your baby's stomach completely. On day 3, the baby's stomach is about the size of a ping pong ball. On day 10, the baby's stomach is the size of a large, extra large chicken egg. And then it grows from there. So your baby's stomach starts very small and grows gradually. Now, benefits to mom through breastfeeding include that increase in the lovely hormone oxytocin that we discussed earlier, which helps with bonding. So moms are able to connect with their baby and babies are able to connect with mom through that hormone. Breastfeeding also burns extra calories and helps the body return to pre pregnancy weight. What's important to note here is the same healthy and nutritious diet you had during pregnancy. You want to continue that after the pregnancy so that you can actually see this benefit happen for you. We also discussed before how breastfed babies tend to be less sick. With babies being less sick, that means less time off of work for you. So you don't have to take time off of work to run to the pediatrician to take the baby in because they have a really bad cold or something's going on. Breast milk is completely free. You do not have to go in a store and purchase it off a shelf. It's there and readily available for you. Breastfeeding also helps the uterus contract after birth. So the uterus gets extremely large to hold your lovely baby while you're pregnant. What breastfeeding does is it contracts the uterus back down to its regular pear size shape. So it does benefit you in that way. And it may help lower the risk for breast cancer, diabetes, and ovarian cancer. There's also some research that is being done into what other illnesses or diseases breastfeeding may protect mom against in the future. Breastfeeding pros include that it saves money. Just like in the previous slide, it's completely free. So you don't have to go into the store and buy it. It's ready for you. Compared to a can of formula, which can get costly, it's very expensive. Breast milk is free. There's also no need to prepare, warm, or sterilize it. With formula, you do have to make sure you measure it out, you prepare it, you make sure that it's warm, and that you sterilize any tools you may have to use when feeding your baby formula. Whereas breast milk, it's already there, it's ready to go. You don't have to really heat it up outside of if you store it, which we'll talk about later. But it's easier to just feed your baby. Breastfed babies are also unlikely to be overfed. Remember that breast milk digests very easily for the baby. So they don't have this feeling of being really full or kind of out of it or sleepy. Kind of like us as adults when we overeat, we're very uncomfortable, we're cranky, we're sleeping. They don't have these things with breastfeeding. And just like we discussed earlier, breast milk will change as your baby grows. Once that colostrum happens right after birth, it takes about 3 to 4 days for your breast milk to come in. And as your baby grows or gets sick or anything, is exposed to certain things, you'll see the color and consistency of the breast milk change to meet your baby's needs, which is really cool. Now let's talk about some common questions for breastfeeding. The first question we will tackle is, how long should I breastfeed? Well, the American Academy of Pediatrics, the World Health Organization, and other entities say that moms should exclusively breastfeed for at least 6 months. By exclusively, we mean breast milk only. So that means no mixing of formula. If moms can breastfeed for a year, up to 2 years, even better. So that's just something important to note for moms. The second question is, how do I know if I'm making enough milk? The best way to tell if you're making enough milk is, one, to see if your baby's actually gaining weight. So when you go to those pediatrician appointments, they will weigh your baby. Also, it's important to look for wet and dirty diapers. So seeing that they're urinating, that they're pooping in the diapers, that's a good sign that they're actually getting enough milk. If you're not seeing dirty diapers, then that's something of concern. And later we'll talk about community resources, or you may want to call your pediatrician just to follow up and make sure that baby is okay. The third question we have here is, how can my partner participate in breastfeeding? A great way for your partner to participate is to sit right next to you while you're breastfeeding. They can talk to the baby, they can touch the baby's head, comfort them, all while they're on your breast. Other ways they can help is by helping you with chores around the house, so cooking for you, feeding you while you're breastfeeding, bring you a glass of water, because moms tend to be more thirsty when they're breastfeeding. Also, as the baby gets used to breastfeeding and you switch to putting your breast milk into a bottle sometimes, your partner can feed the baby that breast milk through the bottle and have their time with the baby as well. Our fourth question is, can I drink caffeine or alcohol while breastfeeding? So let's tackle caffeine first. You can drink caffeine while you're breastfeeding. You want to drink a moderate amount, so that means up to 2 to 3 cups a day, and that includes caffeinated beverages, like if you like soda products or anything like that. So you just want to keep it moderate, but you can have caffeinated beverages. With alcohol, a lot of times mom will discuss the whole pump and dump theory. So that's up to what's comfortable for you. With alcohol only stays in the bloodstream for about 3 to 4 hours. So it doesn't stay in your system for long. The best trick to this is if you know you want to have a glass of wine or a beer or something that day, go ahead and feed your baby beforehand. And usually babies tend to be hungry 2 to 3 hours after their initial feeding. So that will give you enough time to have that drink, be able to pass a lot of that alcohol through your body, and then be able to feed the baby again. Um, Babies can taste things that you consume in the breast milk. So if they don't really like the taste of the alcohol or anything that's left, they probably will not want to latch on. But this is a great reason why it's important to have stored milk, and we'll talk about that later. Just if you're more comfortable with that concept and you want to have a drink. And the last question is, when should I feed my baby? So every mom hears when I ask this question, oh, you're supposed to feed the baby every 2 to 3 hours. Ignore this in your first weeks of breastfeeding. You should feed your baby on demand. They will be growing and changing, and sometimes when they're growing, they have something called cluster feeding, so they'll want to eat back to back. That's completely normal. The point of just making sure you feed on demand is that you get to know your baby's schedule for how often they're feeding, and this can help you later on when you return back to work or school, and we'll discuss that later. The follow-up question to that is, how do I know if the baby is hungry? The great thing about babies, even though they can't directly talk to us or communicate with us like you and I, they do show us signs that they're hungry, and we're going to show you that on the next slide, so stay tuned. So let's look at some of the signs for your baby showing you that they're hungry. It's important to note that you want to get the baby and feed them when they're showing the early and mid cues for hunger. When they get to the late cues, it's a little bit harder, and I'll go into that in a second. So some of the early cues for hunger is stirring. So they'll be moving around, they'll open their mouth, they'll turn their head back and forth, trying to seek a breast. I don't know if you've ever held a baby that's being breastfed, and when they get hungry, they'll tend to go to your breast like your mom. That's all a sign that, hey, I'm hungry. Where's my food at? Some of the mid cues are stretching, so you'll see them moving and stretching. They also increase their movement, and they tend to put their hand to their mouth. So they'll move their little fists, or they'll ball their little fists up and move it to their mouth. In these stages, these are all perfect times to try to get baby to latch on, because once they get to the late cues below, it's a little bit harder for them to latch on and calm down. So the late cues include crying. They get really agitated and frustrated. They may turn red. When you have a crying baby, they're less likely to latch on properly. So it's very important to take some time to calm them if they have reached the crying or late cues. So you want to cuddle them, talk to them, stroke their head or their body. You could put them skin to skin on your chest. So this is a great way if your partner's around and let's say you're busy for a second, the partner can try skin to skin to try to comfort them. You can do skin to skin to comfort them, and then go back to trying to breastfeed them and having them latch on properly. So if you look for these cues and you have your partner or whoever's around taking care of baby look for these cues, especially the early and mid ones, it will be easier for you to kind of know when your baby is absolutely hungry. In this portion of the PowerPoint, we are going to discuss breastfeeding techniques, how to latch on, and different positions you can do to breastfeed. Please click the link for Baby Center. What it is a video on the 10 tips for breastfeeding success. It goes over how to latch on properly and some positions that you can have for breastfeeding. I hope you enjoyed the video. So this is just a follow-up and image of breastfeeding positions that are available to you. What's important to note is that when you first do that initial latch on, you want to make sure that the baby's nose is to your nipple. So nose to nipple, you don't want to put mouth to nipple. So that with the nose to nipple, you get a deeper latch and a proper latch. Some of the positions on this page are the cradle position, the cross cradle position, a football hold, a laid back position, and the sideline position. These were all discussed in the video. I hope you watched it. And that just gives you some images of what positions you can do and may be comfortable to you. Nutrition during breastfeeding is extremely important. So, with nutrition and breastfeeding, you may have some dietary restrictions. By restrictions, what we mean is that you want to avoid empty calories. So, that's your things that have a lot of sugar, so sodas, cookies, cakes, junk food, things that do not have vitamins and minerals that will benefit your body. You want to make sure you're drinking enough healthy fluids, which the healthiest fluid you can drink is water, because you may notice that you may be thirstier than you were before. With breastfeeding, you always hear mom say, "Oh, I'm always thirsty." So this is a great time to up your intake in water. If you don't like water, a great way to add some natural flavoring is to add your favorite fruit, such as lemons or strawberries or anything like that, into the water the night before, just so it can have some flavor and be tastier for you and that you can enjoy it. You also want to realize that vitamins and mineral supplements cannot replace a healthy diet. So that's why it's extremely important to have a balanced, healthy diet. If you feel like you do need to take vitamins or minerals, you want to talk with your doctor or your healthcare provider and follow their advice. And you want to tell your doctor about any supplements you're already taking, just to make sure that you're not taking too much of what you may or may not need. Any discussion around vitamins and minerals should always be discussed with your provider. So now you've had your baby and it's time for you to go back to work or school. We are going to talk about some ways to make this transition easier so that you can continue to breastfeed your baby and provide them with that breast milk. Some of those methods are hand expression, milk storage, and pumping, which we will discuss on the following slides. This slide shows how to hand express breast milk. It could take a total of between 20 and 30 minutes, and I'm going to walk you through the steps. So your first step is to apply heat or massage the breast in a light circular motion using your fingertips. Then you want to position your hand and fingers in a C shape behind the areola. The areola is that larger, darker, pigmented circle right behind your nipples. So for some women, that may be a darker pink, a dark brown, a black color, depending on your skin tone. So that's where you want to position your hands and fingers in a C shape. Then you want to gently press back your breast towards your chest and compress the breast and roll fingers towards the nipple. You want to repeat this until your milk starts to come down, and you want to collect any milk into a clean container. Now, once your milk flow starts to slow down, then you want to switch breasts by going to the other side and doing the steps that I just stated and that are shown in the picture. It's important to note that when you have the baby on your actual breast to feed, you do also need to switch breasts. So the first feeding, let's say I start with my right breast, then the next time my baby gets hungry, I'll move over to my left breast to do that feeding. So that prevents engorgement and blockages from happening. Something that's great about breast milk is that it can actually be stored for later use. If you want to store your milk, it's important to get a clean Ziploc bag, and you want to get a marker or something you can write with to know the day you're storing that breast milk and the time. That way, when you store it, you can go back and see what you're using. In this picture from Medela, we're actually seeing the different temperatures that you can store breast milk at and how long it's good for. So for instance, I'm going to start towards the right in the freezer portion. So in an actual freezer, your breast milk is good for 6 to 12 months. In a deep freezer, it's about the same. So that's great to know if you wanted to freeze your breast milk, that you have that option. In the refrigerator, so let's say I pump or I express my milk, I can put it in a container or in that clean Ziploc bag in the refrigerator for up to 3 to 8 days. If I have a cooler and I have frozen ice packs in it, my breast milk would be good for 24 hours. And if I were to just, let's say, put my breast milk in a clean container or Ziploc bag on the counter, it's good for 4 to 6 hours. With storing your milk, it's a great way if you have to return back to work or school, and let's say your partner or a family member or babysitter, daycare center is taking care of your child. They can have the option of still feeding your baby breast milk, and you don't have to worry about switching to formula. So this is just a picture, something to take a picture of and put on your fridge or whatnot, of the different storage rates and how long it lasts and what temperature it needs to be in. One thing also with breast milk is that you never want to heat it up. So let's say I took my breast milk from the freezer and it's frozen, right? So the greatest thing to do is let it thaw in the fridge. So I can put it in the fridge and let it thaw, or I could put it in the counter and let it thaw and get back up to room temperature. But I don't need to heat it in the microwave or anything like that. You want to avoid heating any type of milk or foods in the microwave for your child, because with the microwave you tend to get cold and hot spots. So maybe one section you tried it out and it feels okay to you, but another section may be extremely hot and can burn your baby's mouth. So this image just reflects some breast pumping tips. You want to make sure that you get the right breast pump for you. You want to make sure that the breast flanges fit your actual breast so that they're not too big or too small. You want to make sure you're comfortable, you use the pump correctly, And you prepare snack and drink, because remember we said you tend to be thirstier. Breastfeeding does take some energy out of mom, so you want to replenish that with good, nutritious, healthy foods and fluids. And you want to apply a warm, moist heat to the breast. With breast pumps, it is covered in the next slide in community resources, but you usually have it available to you for free through your health insurance. It's good to call your health insurance to find out what may be needed. Some online breast pump websites will do the paperwork for you after filling out some questions and send all that information to your insurance. Other times, maybe your medical provider may have to fill out something and send it into your insurance for a breast pump, but you do have those options available to you. Some community resources available to you for breastfeeding include that hospitals have lactation consultants on staff who most of the time are also registered nurses. They can come up to your room after giving birth and help you with proper latching techniques and positioning, as well as any questions you may have while you're in the hospital. Also, hospitals provide breastfeeding classes. Some are free, some may charge you, so just make sure you're aware of that and that you check. Women, Infant, and Children's, or WIC, is also another resource where you can come in, talk to someone about breastfeeding. They can see how you're latching on and offer any other resources to you that you may need. The Breastfeeding Coalition of Palm Beach County is another resource. La Leche League, which meets with groups of moms that are breastfeeding and helping you to learn about any breastfeeding positions, techniques, and get answers to any questions you may have. NICU support groups for premature infants is another resource. And we discussed earlier that most insurance companies will cover a free pump for you. If you wanted to talk to someone over the phone, there are 2 helplines that are available to you. The National Breastfeeding Helpline is open Monday through Friday from 9 in the morning until 6 in the afternoon. Their phone number is listed below. And also, La Leche League has a helpline with their phone number listed below. Those are all resources that you can take advantage of just to help you along your breastfeeding journey. If you're interested in taking any future classes with us, please visit the Eventbrite website with the link below that lists any upcoming topics that we may be offering. Also, we have an event calendar available to you on our website. It is www.hmhbpvc.org. You can click the link below if you would like to view that calendar. I want to thank you for taking the time out to go through this breastfeeding workshop PowerPoint, and we hope that you join us in the future for upcoming classes.